Good morning, guys. How are you today? Okay, so look, once again, I'm going to tell you, you will definitely need paper today. You're going to need a calculator of some sort, and you're going to need some paper. There's some things that I want to definitely go over with you. So I noticed your comments in the forum on yesterday. Like half of you said, hey, great, the percentage calculator or the tool we use. And then others, you were like, well, I wish I'd learned it better or it was taught better. So with that said, I think I'm going to attempt to make this as my final clarification for this. Now remember, the triangle, you guys, is just a tool to help you set up equations, meaning that I personally don't have to draw a triangle to do this math, you guys. I know that the part is divided by the whole or the this or the that. So I was really trying to give you guys a tool, a mental tool of how we set up equations. Now, true enough, the school, I didn't get this information from this school, by the way. I'm sharing this with you because it's been so helpful. For the last 11 years, I've been teaching with students understanding this process. So that's why I introduced it to you. So I thought it would be of help. But you don't have to know this triangle to do this math. Like I said, it's just a tool, a mental tool for you of how you set this up. Now, one more time. The triangle, if you don't mind, please draw a triangle. And at the top tip, right above it, you want to put a sign that says the part, not the part, but P as part, or EP, edible portion. And that means something I don't have to do much more to, meaning that I've already trimmed it, and this is what's left. That's called the edible portion, okay? Looking at your triangle, the bottom right corner, you guys, that's just percentage. We just keep that percentage. So over right off to that corner, put the percentage sign. Now remember, these are just mental notes for you guys. And then in the left corner, bottom corner, you're going to put whole, or W, which is the whole thing, or as purchased, AP, okay? It represents those things. Now, when I want to solve for percentage, excuse me, when I want to solve for percentage, I have that triangle right there. So that means when I'm solving for percentage, you've already been given the part, and you've already been given the whole. And you do that math, but what happens is in the triangle, you guys, whatever you're solving for, you cover that up with your hand. You cover that. You don't want to see that. And what's left is what you do the math with. So if I'm solving for the percentage, I cover up that right bottom corner. I don't want to see that. I need to do the math from the top divided by the bottom of the triangle, which will give me the percentage. Got it, guys? Now listen. If I'm solving for the top part of the triangle, which is the edible portion or the part, right? You guys, that means I cover up the top of the triangle. And I do whatever I see is left. Well, that's going to leave the bottom left and the bottom right uncovered, right? Exactly. You do that math across, that gives you the answer for the top. Now, if I'm solving for that left bottom, which is the whole or the as purchased, I want to cover that up with my hand or something. I don't want to see it. All I'm going to see then is the top and the right bottom. And when I do that math, it always gives me the answer for the left bottom. So yesterday I told you that the triangle proves itself. If I want to know what the top is, I do the math across the bottom. If I want to know what the math is for the answer is for the bottom right, I do the math from the top to the left. Gives me the bottom right. Vice versa. When I want the bottom right, I do the math from the top to the right left, which gives me the answer to the bottom left, okay? Now watch this, guys. You got to sort of really know how to do this particular math. You don't have to know the triangle, but you've got to know this math. Okay, so listen. I took the liberty of actually getting some yields of stuff that we're going to use that you will be using pretty soon, actually, in the kitchens when you get back. Now, you're not going to have to calculate any portions for what you're doing in the lab, but know this, you guys. Every time we set up a cart for a classroom, someone has to do this math, by the way. And I don't know if you knew that. Every time we have a class, we got to know how much product to pull, how much produce to pull, right? And that someone has to do this math so we have our stuff for our class. So please know, this is done constantly. And all of you guys know Chef David, right? He was our receiving clerk previously. This is what he had to do when he ordered product. He knew it might be 80 pounds that came in, but he knows he's only going to have a 70-pound yield, stuff like that, you guys. And why is that important? Because that's what starts the math in the first place, okay? Is this product. So watch this. I took the liberty to, so we could just work a few problems, guys, okay? And here we go. Avocado. Oh, boy. Oh, shit, the corona. Oh, boy. Okay, now, seriously. Okay, avocado only has a 75% yield. Okay? Asparagus has a 55% yield. Broccoli is only 65 to 75%. Okay? Here were some fruit yields I had looked up. Let's see. Pineapples, only a 52% yield. So that means that I'm barely, when I have a whole pineapple, the usable part only going to be 52% of it. That means I'm going to lose 48% of my product that I pay for in waste or trim. Ouch. Watermelon has only a 47% yield. Okay, let me think what else. Oranges, right? For orange juice, only has a 30% yield. Man. Right, exactly. Same thing with limes, 30%. Pears, 78%. Plums, 94%. Rhubarb, 86%. Strawberries, 89%. Why is this important? Well, look, when your recipe calls for so many pounds, as I was explaining, you can't go buy that exact amount of pounds. You've got to know what the yield is for that food. So you buy the right amount, right? And then, how do I know the amount to buy? Well, it's different at home. You pick up a pack of something, right, and take it home, and that's fine. But commercially, you guys, we cook for 3, 4, 5, 1,000 people. And some people cook for more than that a day. So imagine sitting down and placing that order. And not just the order, but understanding that you had to calculate edible portions that you're going to cook, right? So that means you've got to order more than actual weight that you're actually cooking with, because you've got to calculate in with the trim what the waste is. Okay? So listen. Here we go. You guys ready? If you need, asparagus. Let's go with asparagus, okay? You guys will be handling that coming in the door. So watch this. Asparagus only has a 55% yield. So that means when I actually get all that asparagus in, we cut off about 45% of it. All right? So let's do the math. You ready? Here we go. My dish or my recipe is going to call for 7 pounds, 6 ounces. Okay? My recipe calls for that. 7 pounds, 6 ounces. Well, you guys, the first way I'm going to start solving this is I'm really going to turn all this, that 7 pounds, 6 ounces, I'm going to turn it into ounces, to be quite honest with you. It's just easier to work the math like this, okay? So this is what I'm going to do. And this is how this is done, okay? Oh no, I said this wrong, okay. My recipe calls for 7 pounds, 6 ounces, right? So I've got to go 7 pounds, which is 7 times, watch this, 16. Why did you pick 16, Chef? Because there's 16 ounces to a pound. So that number 16, in a culinary way, represents a pound to me, or a pint. Either one. It's a pound or a pint in my mind, okay? And now if I was solving for tablespoons, that would have represented a cup, but that's okay. But anyway, okay? So I have 7 pounds, right? 6 ounces. So 7 times 16 is going to equal 112, okay? Now, I can't let that 6 ounces sit out there. I've got to add it to it. So 112 and 6 is going to come to 118. Am I correct? Okay. My recipe, or what I'm going to do, is going to call for 118 ounces of asparagus. Now, remember, I started out as 7 pounds, 6 ounces, right? I went ahead and converted that whole thing to ounces to be able to do this math. But watch this, okay? So if the recipe calls for 7 pounds, 6 ounces, that has to be the part, you guys. Well, why is that the part, Chef? Because it's going to be the smaller amount, knowing I have to trim. So the smaller amount, not the whole thing, always will be represented as the part or the edible portion. So if the recipe called for the 7 pounds, 6 ounces, that means that must be the edible portion. Okay? So watch this. I'm going to put the 118 up where the part goes, which is at the top or the edible portion of the triangle, okay? So if you guys would put that 118 and put the OZ sign right behind that just to keep yourself straight that, okay, I'm dealing in ounces right now. Because I could have done this for grams, for pounds, for milliliters, for liters, for kilograms. I could have did this for all of that math, you guys. Okay? So, 118 on the top. We know that's the edible portion or the part, right? And I told you that asparagus has a 55% yield. So, it's giving me the percentage, right? The 55%. So that ends up the 118 at the top point of the triangle, right? And down in the percentage, the right corner, you're going to put the 55%. Percent's always going to be percent. The only thing is, as I reminded you about this percent, you've got to move that decimal, okay? So now, you see how the left corner, there's nothing over there? Because that's what we're solving for. The whole, what all do I have to buy? What as purchased? As purchased means the way it comes in, okay? This is what I'm solving for. How much asparagus do I have to buy to get that 118 ounces or that 7 pounds, 6 ounces, okay? So here's the math. Since you're solving for the whole, remember earlier I said cover that up? So technically, you don't have anything over where the hole is, do you? So that means it's sort of covered up. The only thing you're seeing in your triangle now is the 118 up top and the 55, which represent percentage. Let's do the math. Anything that's coming from the top has to be divided by the bottom. Please know that. This is how this works. Now, if I'm doing the math across the bottom of the triangle, we only use multiplication across the bottom. If I'm going left to right, right to left, I use multiplication. If I'm using anything from the top with the bottom, I'm dividing the top by the bottom. This is how this works. This is how we solve for each point on the triangle. So let's do this math real quick, you guys. So it ends up being 118, right? Divided by, watch this, remember the decimal point trick. So instead of 55%, it now becomes 0.55, right? So we're going to divide by 0.55. And you're going to come up with 214.5454. And it's extended out, right? You know what that tells you? Hey, you must buy 214 and a half, if you will. So really, guess what? I'm going to make sure I have 215 pounds of asparagus. This is what this tells me I have to have in order to execute this recipe that only calls for 7 pounds, 6 ounces. So I have 214 ounces, remember? Since I solved this in ounces. So I'm going to take that 214, right? Got it, everybody? I'm going to divide it by 16. And guess what it's going to do? Turn it back into pounds for me. And guess what I need? We good, guys? So what I did was took the amount of ounces divided by 16. And it's going to tell you exactly. It should tell you how many pounds you need. Okay? So it was something like 214 ounces, right, guys? Or something to that effect, right? Divide your ounces back to change them into pounds, okay? Now look, with that, like originally in the 7 pounds, 6 ounces, that's not 7.6. That's not how math is done, okay? So if it comes out 7 pounds, 6 ounces, you physically add the 6 ounces, okay? Remember, 0.5 and 8 ounces represents the same thing. That's half a pound. 0.5 or 8 ounces, as you know, is half of 16, which is half a pound. Okay, you guys? So listen, come up with a number on avocado. Say, just make up a number. My recipe needs this. Work what I just showed you using the different yield. Avocado was 75, asparagus was 55. We just worked that. Broccoli 65 to 75%. Okay. I gave you some of the fruit stuff, but the idea is to know how to calculate that. Okay. So we just understood how to calculate how much I need to go buy. And with the same thing going across, if I have to know what my yield is, I'm going to take how much I bought times the percentage of its yield will tell me, okay, let me make it plainer. Having a case, 50 pounds of potatoes, okay? Potatoes only have an 80% yield, or you're going to lose 20%, okay? So how much am I going to get out of that 50-pound box? I can have that sitting in the walk-in all day, but I still need to know how much usable product does that actually represent. Does that make sense, guys? And how would I do that? I would take that 50 pounds, put it in the left bottom corner, because that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing, right? And I said it had a what? 80% yield. So I put the 80 over in the percent side. I haven't put anything up top because that's what I'm getting ready to solve for. How much usable product am I going to get out of this 50-pound case of potatoes? Meaning, how much edible portion do I end up with? So I'm going to take that whole 50, right? I said across the bottom is multiplication. I'm going to go times, not 80, but 0.80, right, you guys? And it's going to tell me how much potato I have usable once I've trimmed it out of a 50-pound box. I sure hope you find this important, okay? Now, once I know what something costs, my portion, then it's easy for me to cost out my recipe, right? So now I just use weights. I could have used money. Yeah. Watch this real quickly. Let's suppose y'all got child support. And they say, hey, we're going to take 30% of your income. Well, you know what your bills are. You know what your rent is. You know all this stuff. So you wonder, oh, Lord, what am I going to have left? Well, hello. Use the triangle. Yeah, just like that. I would put the 30% they say going to child support or to whatever over in the percentage. Then I would put my whole check. How much do I make? Over in the left, the whole thing. Do that math across. Look up top. It's going to solve for, oh, this is what I'm going to have left. You guys, we use this for everything. We use this type of math. Now, listen, most of us don't actually draw out the triangle. But like I said, it's a tool to help you know where to set and how to set your math up. Okay? So this would have been an easier explain had I been in front of you and drew the triangle and let you ask question and sent you up to the board to work out stuff, because that's normally what I do when I teach this class. Okay? But we don't have this liberty. But I want to say something to you. I noticed, and I'm going to end on this note, you guys. You guys be playing. Let me tell you why. I had almost 30 people in this class. How I only have 20 views on the video, on these lectures? In each lecture, I talk about how to execute something in this. So you know what that tells me? Do the math, chef. If you had 20 views and you got 30 students, oh man, that means only 66.66% of my students are watching the videos. And this is where you're getting your instruction from on how to execute these formulas and this type of math, right? So guess what that tells me? I really, get them, chef, I really only expect 66.66% of you to be successful. Now, what do you think about that with math? Hey, you guys have a great day. Please go over these equations. Set up mock equations, okay? And how you know if you have the right answer, do the math again to another side, and it should prove it. Go across the bottom. It's going to give the top answer to the top right. Top right, top bottom. Top right. Top and right bottom gives you left bottom answer, right? Top, left bottom gives you right bottom answer. You guys work this, understand how it's interchangeable. Remember, I could put anything in there. Hours, money, ounces, pound, people, anything numeric I can put in there and solve for. Okay? I hope this was helpful. All right? On tomorrow's video, what I'm going to do is do some review math with you so that you're able to actually calculate out these recipes, which we did already. Some of you did okay, others didn't know how to. I think you're rounding through some of you off. Let me just say this last note, you guys. Don't round anything unless you're instructed to. Round to the nearest tenth, nearest hundredth, or thousandth. Make sure that you understand that. Don't round unless instructed to. Got it? Everybody good? All right, listen, talk to you tomorrow. Work this equation so that you understand just how to manipulate it, what it does for you. It's a really good tool, you guys. Like I said, it's a visual tool, really. You don't need to really draw a triangle. But it just gives you a mental setup of how to set up stuff or where it goes and what it solves for, okay? I hope this was helpful. Have a great day.